Okay, streaming software has been connected. We are ready.
Okay.
Guess we'll see what we do today. And there's my face. I'm close this time, so that's good. I think I'm gonna sneeze. Whew! I managed to keep that mostly in. Hey, we got a couple people. Hi, everybody. Dan. Hello, all. Hey, all. Happy Sunday. Hi, Dan. Thanks for joining us. It is a Sunday. Somebody else showed up, too. I held the sneeze in, so that was pretty exciting. At least it didn't blow out the back of my throat. That happens sometimes. Frog says hello. Hi, Frog. Darlene. Hello, everyone. Hi, Darling. We've got a few people coming in to say hey. Always fun to get started. What do we want to talk about today? Any ideas? I'm talking to everyone. A few more people have popped in, I see. Eve says hello. Hi, Eve. Welcome. We're just jumping right in. What's everybody doing this week? Eve says happy to be here. So are we. Veronica says hi. Hi, Veronica. Ruth says hi, all. Hi, Ruth. All right. A couple more people showing up. Frog says, do you know good resources for crystal grids? Not really. I mean, I've created some of my own crystal grids as far as not the way they're being done now, like on a, one of those pieces of paper or wood or whatever with all of the patterns on them, but creating sort of a crystal engine machine or whatever to help change the energy in a place that we were at. I've been doing that for years. I've never made one of the new type where you buy a platform with a design and buy all the crystals in order to put them on. So, I don't know. We don't know where everything is. Ian says, hello, I am here, but feel very poorly, so would prefer not to converse today. Sorry. Yeah, he didn't get much last night. Eve says, I thought perhaps we could talk about unintentional mind manifestation. Well, that certainly is a subject, and it does happen to people. Unintentional consequences happen all the time. We were talking about that last week a few times, I think. Yeah. Where you are focusing your energy that you don't know that you have, perhaps, on a particular outcome, and it's happening mostly in your subconscious, and then it starts popping out all over around you. Angela says, hey everyone, the live notification never came up. What did I miss? Not much. It's only 4 minutes in, so you're good. You're pretty much all caught up. We've just all said hey at this point. So welcome, Angela. Yeah, unintentional consequences, though, are interesting because I think they happen a lot more often than we recognize. Angela says, hugs and blessings and cookies manifest for everyone today. Hugs, love, blessings, and light for everyone today. Thank you, Angela. We have a little bit of news on our relative, or the other grandmother. After she got to the hospital and was life flighted out, from here, and they stabilized her. Apparently she had a heart attack, but she is still in stable condition at this point. So she's going to be there for quite a while, and it's definitely caused a bit of a strain on everyone else. Lodi says, "Hi everyone," or Lod, Lode. I don't know why I added the I. It must be that song. Glad to be here. Welcome.
Stuck in Lodi.
Yes, stuck in Lodi. Violet says, "Hello, I am working in my graphic design programs, piecing together a star project of the 88 stars. I have taken in so much information lately on magic. There are so many differing rules." Yes, each system has its own, just like each system of healing, be it medical or energetic, also has their own set of rules. Angel says, "Oh, so good to hear she still has some will to stay so far." And hugs to Violet. "Good luck on your star work." Yeah, I guess if you're going to have a heart attack, the best place to do it is while you're in the ICU, where people are paying very close attention to your stats and everything that's happening. They got her off of intubation and then had to put her back on, and she was combative because she didn't like the tubes and things in her, and they ended up having to put a device on her to hold her down to keep her from pulling out her IVs and whatnot. So she's not happy, and they put her under light sedation again. But she certainly is feisty, which is probably a good sign, and I'm sure that they know how to deal with that kind of thing. Undoubtedly that happens to a fair number of people. So there's a massive infection. They're trying to figure out what it is, and they've got her on bigger antibiotics at this point to try and stem that from happening. So, and Eve says, "Laugh out loud, Siofra." Thank you. Angela says, "Well, if you're feisty enough to complain about tubes, that's a good thing." Yeah, we're not sure if it's that or she just doesn't understand what's going on and she wants to get away. But, you know. They asked her point blank, "Do you want to live?" And she said yes. She says, "Well, then this is what we have to do if you want to live." So it's like a dire kind of circumstance as far as that goes. But is making everybody, of course, again, think about all the different potentials for what can happen to a person. Ian had a rough night last night, which is why he just left the room to deal with something, I think. And we're going to have a talk with the doctor about what happened to him last night. So if we get any news, we'll let you know. Veronica says, "So sorry to hear about what's going on. Sending her all my love." Yeah, I put up an update on the community page to let everybody know where she was at. And she's still in the same location, but they've switched beds. So she's no longer in bed 13, but she's in bed 9, last I heard. I don't know if they just sort of, move people around or not. But yeah, it's been interesting. It's been an interesting week. And we had the dog came back again, and we had to call first animal control, but they didn't have anybody. And then called the police. And I know the woman who lives directly across the street from us. She actually was in our group, so I had her cell phone number, and I let her know what was happening, and she contacted the people whose house has the dog, and they sent someone over to put the dog in the house because he was wandering around the streets without any supervision. And there's some people he likes, and that's great, but there's some people he doesn't, and that's not. So, yeah. It was very strange, just energetically speaking. He says, "I was laughing at you joke about being in the hospital while having that happen." Yeah, it's not fun. So, anyway, unintended consequences. Last week, Ian talked briefly about the one that he feels that he did because he was so angry at somebody, and I think that people who have enough energy, if they are really vividly focusing on an individual, there can be a definite effect from that focus. So it's always a good idea to be aware of your own thoughts. And And I've told you guys about the one where the local doctor here made fun of Christopher Reeve becoming paralyzed, and because, you know, he didn't know how to ride a horse. And he just stated that out loud. I think you really have to be careful what you say out loud to the universe, because when I heard that, I knew that he was in trouble because he was an equestrian himself. And 2 weeks later, he ended up in a serious accident with his horse, with his pelvis completely crushed. And he didn't get paralyzed, but he almost died, and it was pretty close. So, you know, I have that kind of relationship with the universe when I say something and I think, that's not a good idea, and I try and correct it. And I did that, that kind of thing when I was coming back from, I think, the last medicine wheel ceremony year that I went to. I stayed at this guy's house, and he kind of coerced me into letting him give me a reading. And he told me that I was never going to see my children again, but that would be a good thing because then I could become the great teacher I was meant to be. And I was pretty angry about that, knowing how you can plant ideas in people's heads. And I stated out loud to the universe on the spot, I says, if by any chance this person is correct in what they say, I quit, and I quit now. I will never teach. I will never do anything. I will not participate in this if the price for me to do this is losing my children. And so, you know, and then I made sure not to tell anyone what he said until my children didn't come home. And I thought for sure that meant they were dead. And it turned out that my daughter's father kidnapped them and kept them in Saskatchewan and wasn't going to bring them back. And I had to use my mother bear willpower to get my children back, which I did. And everyone kept encouraging me to just let it happen because, you know, it'd be easier. And his attorney tried to convince me it would be a better thing for them, and painted me a picture of them sitting on the floor in the sunshine with the stepmother with a Bible on her lap reading that to them as they looked up raptly and, you know, interested in everything she said. And I just thought, yeah, this is about the last picture you should ever try and use to convince me it's a good idea to leave my children behind. Yeah, it didn't work. But sometimes willpower is a very real thing, and it can keep somebody from dying. It's we call it the Jedi, not the Jedi mind trick, the Ben Gesserit voice. It's like there are certain moments in my life where I make a statement of fact and reality, and then reality has to conform to that. Like when the guy said that I wasn't going to get my own way, and you know, I'd been flying in the face of God's will all these years, and they were going to not let me keep my children and all this other stuff, and I just said, watch me, and hung up, and proceeded to go get my children, you know. And it is an interesting thing. It's like thinking about signs and portents and the universe talking to you. It's all a part of that. So paying attention is always a good idea. So Angela says, dang. Julia slips into my seat as I smile to everyone, glad to be here. And then adds, hot damn, you tell him, Siofra. Angela says, hell hath no fury like a pissed off mom on a mission. Yeah, no kidding. Eve says, perhaps you can take anomalous action to break the matrix. Now, well, for my own self maybe, but I don't think I could do it for the entire planet or the whole universe, so I'm not going to try. I'm more concerned with me and my little part of this puzzle. Not having a gigantic ego, thinking that I am actually the queen of the universe, although I did give myself that title. That was after a really bad psychic reading, and someone said that I was going to get a promotion in my job, and I'm like, I'm self-employed, I have no employees, and I have no boss. So if I'm going to get a promotion, I have to give it to myself. So I declared that I was the queen of the universe because, you know, why go through all the steps? Just go right to the top. So that's what I did. But yeah. I mean, really, the things we say out loud are even more powerful than the things we just think to ourselves. So when we speak it out loud, words have got shape, form, energy, power in order to shape reality around us. So it's always a good idea to listen to what we're saying. And if we're constantly saying negative things either to ourselves or about other people, then that's going to add energy to that pool of whatever and maybe manifest it. Angela says, I think the Matrix movie told us how to break the matrix. There is no spoon. There is no matrix. Words cast spells. That's why we call writing them spelling. Yeah, in English. I have to point this out that as English speakers, we seem to think all language is based on us. And so that's another one of our little hubris things that we have going on as English speaking people, that we think our language is the most powerful one. And I don't know if that's true in any other language except for English. So it's cute and funny, but true. What do they call writing them in other language? Yeah, it's a good question. How many languages are there out there? Thousands of them? We'd have to do a heck of a lot of research to figure that out. But, it's always good to be aware of that we're just one of many languages that are spoken. The universe understands all of them, obviously, because it speaks in thoughts and imagery and feelings and so forth, and language is how we shape some of those thoughts and feelings to put it out there. And I think it's the intent and the message of what the words mean to us that is the important part. Eve says, I believe that to be true. Speaking things into creation is a real thing. So as to why I brought up the subject of unintentional manifestation, Sundrop says, hi everyone. Hi Sundrop, thank you for joining us. And Angela says, yay Sundrop. Yay Sundrop, I agree. Yeah. So, Eve says, hi Sundrop. Angela says, do we count the dead languages too? Latin is still used occasionally. Well, a lot of things that we talk about are based in Latin, like body parts. Most of the parts of our body are Latin-based languages, so most doctors are going to have at least a basic understanding of Latin and what it means. And of course, French, Spanish, Italian are all based on what they call the Romantic languages, which have a Latin root to them. So I would say it's still pretty much alive and well when it comes to that. It's an interesting subject, though. Julia says, hey, Sundrop. So we had a couple of really nice days, and today the rains are back for a bit, but I cannot hardly believe what happened to Fort Lauderdale. I can't believe like 25 plus inches in 24 hours on a single city. It's like, wow. Global warming is pretty impressive, or global climate change, I guess I should qualify, since it's not always about the heat. Sometimes it's just about the change in weather patterns, both up and down. But yeah. I think all of this has to do with just being more self-aware of what we're doing. Eve says, I believe vibration is a universal language, so when something strikes a chord and your breath is taken away, maybe visit that. Yep. Sundrop says, hi. Hi. Angela says, there was thunder snow in my area when rain was forecast. The surprise snow in the middle of a sunny Saturday, then it was gone at the end of the day. Snow thunder is so interesting, isn't it? I've only heard that once, and that happened here a few years ago. It's not something you expect to hear thunder in a snowstorm. Ruth says, I got this book on Kali, the Black Goddess of Darkshine War. It is good. Yeah, Kali's an interesting goddess for sure. Mary says, hello friends. Sorry to hear about some intense things happening. Hope things calm down and things work out for everyone. That's called life. It comes up, it goes down. It rolls around, it moves, it flows, it has tides. Angela says, there's only a 30% shot of it in midwinter. The odds in spring must be very low. Julia says, Tor is fighting the ice giants. Thor, I'm thinking. Angela says, can they call a truce? I'll bring Mead. We have a friend who doesn't understand that lightning and thunder are related. Friend of the family. And both my daughter and my granddaughter have tried to explain to her how thunder happens. I think she would understand the mythological source of it better than the scientific one, as far as that goes. Because that was one of our little conversations. It's always interesting what you end up talking about. Yes, I misspelled it. Yay, Mead. Grabs my horn, holds it out. Mead is a traditional drink for sure, for those guys. I went to one of their a workshop given by a group that's up in southern Washington. And they were down on the coast here, and they have an intentional community up in Washington where they raise animals for sacrifice. One specific animal, a goat, I think, that they name as the sacrifice and pamper it for a year before the time comes for it to pass over. Not a thing I'm interested in doing, but it was interesting to learn about. Angela says, pours Mead for Julia. I manifest everyone their favorite drink and snacks today. Julia grins. Eve says, I'll match the batch. Yum yum. Angela says, you can get Mead where I live in some breweries. It's pretty good, but not something I'd want a whole cup of. Well, since I don't drink alcohol because my body doesn't like it, I have no opinion one way or the other about it. Although of all the alcohols, I care the least for beer type concoctions, and I think Mead qualifies for that. I'm not sure. But hey, to each their own. So.
Of course, my favorite is a dark Mexican beer.
Yeah, Ian likes it dark and bitter.
Not too bitter.
Not too bitter. I like bitter and sweet. I don't like sour or hot. So everyone's senses are different, and that's cool. That's why we have so much variety in everything, because we're not the same, and that's okay. You don't want to be the same. Angela says, Mead is super old alcohol. I heard it predates beer and contains honey. Well, honey mead is definitely what they call it, and I have no clue about how they make it, so you probably know more about it than I do. But they used to use alcohol exclusively because water was contaminated, and they never knew for sure what ills they might end up if they drank water from the wrong source, and by turning it into an alcoholic beverage, they killed most of the germs that were contained within the water, and then it was safe to drink. I like bittersweet, but not too sweet. Yeah, I like bittersweet too. See, I like sweet and bitter, and putting the two together is like way awesome. So bittersweet chocolate. I love that. Veronica says, what do you think about the new trend of witches on the internet? There's a lot of them, and I guess on the one hand, it is kind of interesting that it's becoming more popular, but on the other hand, it seems to be more, for a lot of them, the new ones, it seems to be a lifestyle thing, and they want to find out, what kits do I do, what spells do I do, how do I dress, how do I look like a witch, and it's not about that. I mean, that sort of stuff can happen, but it's not it's a lifestyle choice, yes, but it goes deeper than the superficial accoutrements that are involved in it. Without the understanding of what they mean and how to use it properly, that's all they are. And it's just sort of like a fad for some people. And it'll probably lose interest in it at some point. Angela says it also had higher calories, so if food was low, they could fill their stomachs. True. Eve says, the man who invented the water fountain was a dentist. He saw what was happening to the teeth. Ah. Mary says, as I get older, hangovers get worse, but I enjoy a drink. Gonna have to do it more mindfully and not as much as I used to. Well, yeah, anything in moderation is usually safe unless there's some kind of a serious addiction that's associated with whatever it happens to be. But that's pretty much true of most things. Anything to an excess is harmful to the human body or the mind or the spirit. That seems to be the case. Too much oxygen will kill you, too much water will kill you. These are two things we can't live without. So, yeah, mindfulness is very important. And being in touch with your own body, because it changes as we age. You know, things work differently, hormones shift around, all sorts of stuff happens to the human body, just as it did when we went through puberty. It's like this whole transition kind of a thing. It's crazy. Sometimes very unpleasant and uncomfortable, but it's there. That's the way it is. We finished watching that Brazilian show. They only had 5 episodes in the second season, and it was kind of interesting that in at least as far as the show was concerned, their magical entities often start off as human beings first, and then something happens to them, and then they acquire an ability of a specific entity and then become a member of that group. So I thought that was interesting. Very different way of seeing it than other cultures. I like that kind of stuff. Angela says, what's everyone's favorite after magic snack or snack you like to share? Some on the altar, some for you if you do that. Well, when we're doing a big ritual, we always have a feast afterwards, and it doesn't matter what we're eating. We often eat food traditional to the holiday or the ritual that we're doing, something that gives us an image of that, but thanking the gods and the goddesses for the food that we have and feeding each other is traditional after magic. So I don't know. I don't think I have a favorite one in particular. I know a lot of groups use the alcohol, like for the cup, for the sharing of the cup, and I don't care for sharing a cup through an entire group anymore because the possibility of germs, and I can't drink the alcohol, so we used apple juice, sparkling apple cider and stuff like that, or grape cider or grape juice for our rituals when we were doing stuff in public. But we instituted a everyone bring your own cup kind of thing to minimize the sharing of strange germs from a whole line of people that we're not living with.
Yeah, you don't need to worry about that so much if you've got a high alcohol content,
but still, yeah.
It's still a concern.
Yeah. But, everyone's going to have the things that they like. I like making different kinds of treats for different rituals, and Beltane's coming up. May 1st will be the next big ritual that happens. I don't think we're not doing any public rituals anymore. It's just too much energy and not enough appreciation for the energy it takes to do that. So I was thinking about that the other day, going by the park where we've done several maypoles at one park around a specific tree. Another park, we actually rented at the beach a gazebo and did a maypole around the center pole in the building, because a lot of times in May it is pretty windy and cold around here. And we've done other gazebos in other parks and things like that, so we have access. We have the portable pole that Ian built, so we could start using that, and we used that a few times. So we have like a maypole in here that had ribbon wrapped around it from the portable stuff that we did. It is kind of fun and interesting. Mary says wine and chocolate's her favorite. Angela says, why are people so ungrateful at times? It makes me sad. Yeah, it makes me sad too, and I don't understand it. Because they're too self-absorbed, I'm assuming. They want something that they want to have, and it's not what they're getting, so they don't appreciate what comes. They have a specific thing in mind that they're looking for. I don't know. Eve says, seasonal food is best, as you might want to correspond with the festivities. Also, I would not recommend drinking from someone else's cup unless there is alcohol in it. Yep. Julia says, when I give an offering to a deity, I often have some of the same of whatever it is, if it's edible or drinkable. It's a nice way to communicate your energy. Veronica says, what does food offerings and using it in ritual do? Well, it's sort of, in some cultures, like in Bali and Indonesia, for example, every house still has their household deities that they work with, that protect their house and the members of their family and so forth. And before every meal, they put the food out for the deity to have. And their idea is that the god or goddess of the household will take what they need from the food, which is going to be energetic, and then the people eat the leftover, the rest of the food, so it doesn't go to waste. And it's a way to connect with another part of the universe, because when your food is sustenance, it comes from the earth, it comes from the ground, it comes, from the animals or the plants or whatever, and doing it in the sense of a ritual and honoring the source of it is a way of connecting with nature and thanking nature for the bounty that it gives us, that allows us to continue. So that would be my interpretation of that. Sometimes you can charge up your food for specific purposes and then consume the energy you've put into the food. You can do that on a daily basis if you're, want to put in healing energy or whatever into the food and charge the food up before you consume it. And so, and in a sense, eating is a magical act because you're taking one thing, you've transformed it, if it's not raw, you've transformed it into another version of itself, and then when you digest it, you're transforming it into energy to keep your body going. So it can be seen as in itself a magical act, because it's like our bodies might do it, but so Angela says, I can't leave food offerings on my altar, so I call in my deities and pray over the food and drink so they have their share first, and then I eat. Yeah, which is pretty much like what the Balinese, Indonesian people do. Eve says, energetic frequency, absolutely. Yeah, and it's just a way of acknowledging the fact that we don't exist on our own. We are a part of something, a life force, energy, our entire planet is a part of. And by honoring the food that keeps us alive, like I said, we connect with that part of reality, acknowledging it. And I'm sure that there's bonuses down the road that we may not even understand or know about. Eve says also, when you give back to the earth, it helps the earth to grow. Yep. And, early indigenous cultures understood this because it was a matter of life and death. If they didn't have a healthy and positive relationship with the environment, they wouldn't exist. They would die, literally. So developing that kind of an energetic and spiritual connection with the source of your food sort of raises it up in awareness for the culture, so that it becomes a way to preserve the earth, the land, and the tribe all at the same time, and just sort of allows that connection to flourish by honoring it that way. And then sometimes, of course, they get communication coming back from the spirits of the food sources that they have, and it helps them to understand, like, crop rotation, or what plants like to be next to each other and which ones don't, which plants are good for nutrition, which plants are good for medicine, what kind of medicine are they good for, communicating through dreams or conversing with the spirit of the plant or the animal. It gives them information that we don't know how to access most of the time. In our modern day culture, we use science to try and break things down and figure it out. But it's sort of like a hit and miss kind of thing. Angela says, oh, I remember an unintended consequence I got from food magic, nothing dangerous. Violet says, I sometimes have such a broken heart for not realizing magic was real a long time ago. I feel that our barbaric past left me stumbling around for decades, lost, trying to find my real place. Yeah, a lot of people feel disconnected. And Angela said, I did a spell candle to help me get off soda in favor of tea, because I wanted to switch to tea, but was having trouble kicking the soda habit. I'm sure there's more to that story. Eve says soil has to be tendered for by us as we are constantly utilizing its abundance. Yep. Angela continues, and I did the candle after super focused and charging. It worked, but I had weird tea cravings at 2 or 3 in the morning for the first week. Interesting. And soda tasted terrible for the first 7 days. Well, it sounds like it's not so much unintended consequences as the results of what you did. To make you not like soda, it didn't taste good. To make you want tea, it made you crave it. Sounds like perfect to me. I don't see an unintended. Well, you didn't know that that was the consequence. Maybe that's what you mean. Not unintended consequence so much as like unknown factors that you didn't become aware of until after they happened. I was thinking more on the lines of, unintended consequences that you couldn't even have imagined and that didn't seem to relate directly to what happened to you, I guess. Yes, I didn't know that would happen, but it worked. Good. I'm glad it worked. That means that you were taking control of your own body, and I did something similar to that once when I lived up in the Kispiox. One day I suddenly thought, you know what? I need to like the foods that are good for me and not like the foods that are bad for me. And I actually started focusing on learning how to like the foods that were good for me. It worked on almost all of them. It doesn't work on a few, but there's some kind of an energetic connection there that I'm like, there's other food, I don't have to eat that. So, not a problem. But it actually did work, and that's when I learned to enjoy Golden Seal tea for its bitter soil taste. Well, it tastes like really good dirt. Eve says, Detective Taylor is on the case. Lod says, I'm from the UK and was wondering if you've ever visited or plan to, and if so, is there any particular place that appeals to you over here, such as Glastonbury perhaps, with its mystical history? Oh, I'm sure there'd be lots of places that I would love to visit, and as someone who sees ghosts and has done some de-haunting kind of stuff here, I'm sure I would end up with all sorts of experiences if I were there, but I've not been to Europe. I know a lot of people who have, but I haven't. And I know I have an urge, if I travel, I would want to go to Ireland, since that's where my family is from, and maybe, see the base of Knocknashee, where my great-great-grandmother and her ancestors lived. It'd be kind of interesting. But yeah, Angela says, interesting. Glastonbury keeps coming up. People keep mentioning it this week. What happened there? I guess we'll wait for Lod to tell us what happened there. Knocknashee, I heard that mountain is a door to the Fey realm. Undoubtedly, there's a lot of them that are out there that are considered doors to the fairy realm, or at least potential sources of entrance. Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool that my ancestors were raised on a fairy road, basically at the base of a fairy hill. And I thought that would be very interesting to see that. My mother just went crazy when she went to Ireland. She's been to France and Germany too. And one of my sisters lived in Germany and had a pretty aggressive negative ghost happen with her children. And in one place that she lived, she was in the Air Force over there. So she was on one of the Air Force bases in, I think, Western Germany, but no, Eastern Germany. I'm not sure. Since she and I don't speak anymore, I cannot ask her either, so. But I do remember something about that. Everyone in my family, I think, has had encounters with spirits. Either being told that someone has died. My mother had that happen to her. An ex-boyfriend's mother was killed, I think, in a car accident or something. And my mother knew about it, and she gave her a message to give to her son. So my mother called him up and told him the message. So, apparently a certain level of mediumship runs in the family. But yeah, there's lots of cool places on the planet. Of course, I'm sure I would love to go to Stonehenge just to feel it. Veronica says, what's the best way to protect yourself from negative entities? Taking care of your own energy and making your energy full of the kind of energy you want it to have, like light energy, and having healthy boundaries. The better boundaries you have, the universe pays attention to your boundaries. If you don't have any boundaries with your friends, it's very difficult to create magical boundaries. They kind of work together. They're sort of all part of the same thing, but on a slightly different level. So having healthy boundaries is going to be the first step towards keeping negative things away from you. And the more you do that, the easier it is to reject things that aren't positive from coming towards you. And at some point, your energy shifts to where negative things tend not to want to be around you anyway, because you don't taste that great to them anymore. I think that we have to open ourselves up to the negative energy on some level. So usually, if that's happening, that means there's some shadow work that needs to be taken care of. We need to get in there and figure out what it is and work to heal that spot in us. Mary says, I have heard that it's very common to see fairies and elementals in Iceland. Well, yeah, they actually, almost everyone who was born there has seen fairies when they were children. I watched a special on that, which was pretty awesome. And they actually have treaties with the fairy folk. So there's certain places where construction is just not allowed, because then they would violate the treaty that they have with them, and then bad things would happen to the people. Eve says, I find 3 trees in particular, in a particular little mound in a circle, is a special fairy place. Yeah, they create their own little environments every so often. When I'm walking about, in a new location, I can sense them and feel their energy, and sometimes hear little bells and little laughter, and smell mint, and just get this feeling of light-heartedness, I guess, which is pretty cool. Angela says, I don't accept energy not for my best good and health. Life has enough without worrying about icky vibes. Yeah, I agree. There's no reason to accept icky vibes. Even if you're trying to heal someone, you don't have to take it on yourself. You can give it back to the earth and let the earth cleanse the energy so it can use it for something more productive later down the road. Eve says, when you find them in a circle, you will know. Angela says, I see mushrooms some springs that took like paths of stepping stones. I try and leave them alone. Mushrooms are pretty cool. I like them. Observe. Don't absorb the icky. Yeah. Watch from a safe distance. See it go by and go like, yeah, keep on walking. Just keep on walking. Do not need to have you in my environment. Thank you very much. Yeah, I was looking around my house at all the different things that I've put up over the years, like the cross brooms in the kitchen, and the witch bells on the door knob, and the things that are on the outside of our house, the mask that I painted, and now the hands that I have out there for, making everything aware of the fact that this is an environment where if you step on someone's toes, like mine in particular, there will be consequences. So stay away. And it's like, that is what happens. And sometimes if I get off kilter, I had a night the other night where I wasn't sleeping well. I think there was an owl that has a very vivid screech that startled me, and I thought it was a person at first, and then my brain was awake, so I had a hard time getting back to sleep, and I ended up in a weird sort of twilight place. It was very unrestful. So I actually ended up, last night, I wanted to make sure that I had a good night's sleep, so I actually slept with my staff, my athame, a piece of selenite in my bed. The athame was on this side of my pillow, the selenite was on that side of the pillow, and the staff, which is rather large, was along my side, and it helped me sleep, so that was kind of nice. Angela said, I had a statue change a room's vibe. I set the statue down next to me. All the chaotic energy left the room. So I sat with the statue close to me, thanking the lady the statue is of. I'm sure there's more. She's madly typing. Trying to hit enter. I had a funny thing that happened in a place that no one could sleep in this one room, and it turned out that this guy was in there meditating, trying to get rid of his female energy, apparently, and dumped it all into the room. And there was an amazing dark goddess there. It was like, and she was very annoyed that he had dumped her like that. And I was like, well, that's not smart. So I appreciated the wonderful dark goddess and praised her and told her how amazing and incredible she was and how much I valued her presence. And then she left and everyone could sleep in there again. So it was kind of interesting. Sometimes just acknowledging the nature of the energy can do a lot. The statue is an ODL Mother Mary statue. I have a bond with her from childhood outside of the church. It was crazy. Everyone was acting crazy. Work, everything was wrong until I sat with the statue for a while. It was calm and shifted within 5 minutes. Yeah, I think Mary was probably my very first goddess that I did not know was a goddess. And then Aphrodite, when I came after, I knew she was a goddess, but I wasn't Catholic, but I always prayed to Mary when I was a kid. It was kind of interesting. Laud says Glastonbury is steeped in magical history. It has ties with the Holy Grail, King Arthur. Stonehenge is very near to it. It's a very spiritual place. It's probably one of those major power spots. I'm sure there's a lot of amazing energy there. If I had lots and lots of money, we could travel the world and see all these cool places. It'd be awesome. So we just have to win the lottery now. No, we can go do that. And take our computers with us, and we can do live shows from a different country every month.
I don't know that I'd want to do that much traveling.
Well, that's why I say every month. Stay a month in one place. And then go to another place and sort of hang out and get to know it. Angela says maybe it has lots of those ley line things people mention. What do people mean when they say a ley line? Well, actually, the ley line is not the power spot itself. The ley line is the connection between power spots that goes, like, you've got like a center of energy, sort of like a large acupressure point on the planet. And then the ley lines are kind of like the meridians that travel from one spot to another. And those are the ley lines. And they're not really straight and symmetrical like the guy who thought of them in the first place, where he thought it was going to be kind of like latitude and longitude and, specific like that, because it's an organic process. And so the ley lines don't have to be straight, and power points are not always where you expect them to be. We were surprised when we found that cabin. It was clearly on at least a medium-sized power spot, if not a major one. It was significant change to our spirit when we stayed on it. Bep says, yeah, there's a ley line going through Glastonbury. Sundrop says, my mom and I were listening during dinner. She now knows I'm interested in witchcraft. She said she's not into it. That's okay. One of our family members also practices magic. Well, awesome. I'm glad that the lines of communication are open between you and your mom. Shay says, hello all. That sounds like a wonderful idea, traveling to different places every month and having your show in a different part of the world. Yeah, it would be awesome. Angela says, like energy, tree roots. Yes, definitely. Or like your own blood vessels in your body. You've got your main ones that go, to your heart and so forth, and then all the capillaries and the smaller veins and arteries that go out to the different parts of your body. And if you get injured in a location, they can go around the injury and redirect themselves. They can grow new vessels, so I wouldn't expect that energy around the planet would be any different, that it could actually shift direction if it needed to. Laud says, I'd love to see what would happen if you visited Stonehenge. I'm sure it would be very interesting. Yeah, I'm sure it would be. It might blast me out of my body, and I don't know how long I'd be gone. We went to the Stonehenge Memorial here in Washington, and that in itself was pretty interesting, even though it's an artificially created spot. Just walking through where, what it might be like to be there in person. Mary says, that's nice. Your mom is okay with it, Sundrop. Yay to your mom. Yeah, I concur. It's because, it's a personal path, and it's okay that if other people aren't interested. We are really seriously not into proselytizing. It's like, we're almost kind of like the opposite. we're more likely to try and dissuade people from walking this path, because the responsibility, if you're trying to get somebody into it and so forth, can be kind of overwhelming if you feel like you are responsible for their actions, which I don't. I separate myself from that, but still, yeah, it's sort of like you don't want to advise someone to do something dangerous that could harm them. And getting to know yourself apparently is potentially harmful for some people. They don't like it. Angela says, wow, that is cool, and yay, Sundrup, that's amazing. Yeah, it's really hard to hide it completely, especially from a family member. Like I said, my mom took a class to try and understand it, although she definitely took the wrong class. Shay says, the opposite of proselytizing, love it. Sundrop says, yes, we talked about spells and other things. She said she can't do it, but she was open to hear. Well, and there's so much misinformation out there about witchcraft and magic and what it is and so forth. When I went to combine my massage practice with a local chiropractor, someone else, another massage therapist, had told him that it was a bad idea, that I would destroy his practice because I was a witch, which I thought was ironic because she identified as a medicine woman. I don't think she really was, but that's what she called herself. And so we went out to lunch, and he asked me that, and I thought, if I'm going to be in his office building, I want him to know who I am, and if it's not the right fit, then I won't be there. And so I told him the basics and my attitude towards it, and he's like, well, that doesn't sound negative. I said, it's not. There may be people out there who do it that way, but I'm not one of them. And so he decided it was okay for me to have an office there, and I don't think that I actually harmed his office. I think I actually improved it, because, lots of people that came to see me were helped, and they appreciated it, even if I did say weird things sometimes.
Weird is relative.
I know, the WYRD weird is the kind I like. That's me. I'm a weird. Angela says, oh wow, Sundrop, that's so amazing. Sundrop says, thank you. Yeah, and so, you don't have to get into the specifics, but the basic outline is that we're in with nature. It's like we want to work with nature, understand nature, and figure out how to commune with nature, and walk a path that's aware of the natural world around us. Sundrop says, she says it's scary. I said it can be if you're not careful. You have to be careful. Yeah. Angela says, wee! We're all on our own special weird people in a weirder world, just not everyone sees the weird and wonderful ways of everyone. Yeah. I worked for a Scottish attorney years back, and he picked up on the fact that I was not normal, I guess, or like everyone else, and he asked me one day if I was fae. And that's the word for someone who is slightly touched and in touch with invisible things and so forth, and not all in this world. And I knew that's what he meant, and I said, yes, I am. That's F-E-Y, I think, is how that's spelled, the one he was using. So yeah, it's not like people don't know that we exist. It's just some of them are very nervous about being around us. I think it's one of the reasons people tend to be afraid of it is they're afraid that you're going to find out something about them that they don't want to know even about themselves. So they get nervous around people that they think that might be able to read their minds, for example. It's pretty entertaining. Sundrop says, I still can't burn candles. Well, okay, you can maybe approach that with, like, I have a pot that has sand filled in the bottom, or water that's in the pot, so when the candle hits the water or the sand, it burns out and it can't get on anything. It's not a fire hazard. I don't know. But anyway. When you're on your own, you can burn candles if you want to. Angela says, show a good thick dish that can hold them. She might feel safer about it. I had to show my family I would keep candles contained. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If you have a safety feature already built in, and you can show it to her, and she can watch the candle, not get anything else maybe. And use shorter candles so they're not as prone to melting in a weird way and lighting somebody on fire. Angela says, though I'm in the broom closet, they don't know what I'm doing, but they understood I'm not a fire risk. Yeah. And that's why we did that video on staying in the broom closet. What can you do to be magical without letting everybody know your business? Use tea lights in a mini cast iron cauldron is the safest. Yeah, that's true. That would work pretty well. I found a couple of small little cauldrons. In fact, I found one the other day and gave it to my granddaughter because I'd had it in my office. Apparently I had it filled with soil with a crystal in it. And I'd even forgotten I'd done that in my office. And unpacking things, I came across it a while back. Black Sat Sang says, listening to you, Witchcraft is basically about intuition. It is definitely about getting in touch with your intuition, for sure. But it's also about understanding how energy works. So it's not just intuition. Mary says, small steps, sun drop. Many parents would not be okay at all with this practice, so I say pick your battles and be grateful for small wins. Sundrop says, my relative told me I can practice away from home. She practices Yoruba and Santeria. Well, that's a definitely serious practice.
Serious, yeah.
Yeah. So they're not going to be shy. Julia says, lovely to have a cauldron made of metal to burn candles in. The symbolism is awesome. Really makes you feel your intent. Tanya says, I saw an Instagram of someone making a Windmobile made of bones and hanging it by the front door, not to keep bad spirits away, but to scare the normies off. My partner and I are going to make it now. That could work. And some of the things I have outside, I figure that's one of the things that they do. When someone stole my what do they call the globe thingies, the floats? Yeah, I bought some nice floats and colored floats and hung them up. Someone actually reached through my fence and like cut one off. So now my floats are decorated with pentagrams. No one has touched one since. So yeah, it can work. Angela says, yes, mine is her own thing, even has her own name. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. I'm glad that we end up with just the right number of people to have a conversation with.
Yeah.
And each one is a little bit different. Each conversation we have covers slightly different things depending on how people are feeling, what's going on in the world. Angela says, my cauldron, I mean, she's fun. I also like to ground into her because iron eats negative energy, I notice. Yeah. I had my cauldron that I got when I was in Texas teaching a workshop up in Prince Rupert during a women's weekend, and I used it for the acacia for the center, and I put it in the middle of the circle, and then everybody's starting to dance around it. I'm like, don't hit the cauldron in the middle, you will destroy all reality. People freaked out. Like that was a joke. They're like, it's okay to laugh? That was something that was surprising. Apparently, in the beginning, a lot of people were like, religion and spirituality is supposed to be solemn. You're not supposed to laugh. It's a bad thing. And I'm running around giggling like an idiot and just laughing my head off. And they're like, what? And I guess that's actually the reason why the rumor spread that I don't take this seriously enough. Somebody came to one of our rituals and didn't like how we called in the directions and said that we weren't serious enough about our craft. And I'm like, okay. Someone has a broomstick in a place that doesn't see the sun. Like, hello. But yes, judgment, criticism is pretty common. Angela smiles. Yay! Laughing. Laughing is a good thing. I have several different kinds of cauldrons. I have a brass cauldron that I use for water, for scrying, and putting moon water in. Lod says, this may be a bit of a bizarre question, but is there a spell that would encourage two pet cats to get along? Yeah, I don't know. I think you need to watch the shows like My Cat from Hell, because he has some really, he's a cat whisperer, the guy who has that show, and he can give you some really good tips on how to get cats to accept one another and ways of doing it. It's a very slow process of having them separated, then introducing them and seeing how it goes and all this other stuff. So I would try that. Angela says, I thought the craft was supposed to be fun and carefree and a little wild. Yeah, me too. Tanya says, I have a broom across the front porch and we haven't had anything get stolen. And I feel if folks feel a witch lives there that they might get cursed if they do harm. Yeah, that's one hopes. Angela says, the candle is named Tuna Fish. Okay. Sundrop says, what is really better for making a cleansing spray, plastic bottle or glass bottle? I don't know that it matters. Whatever you have on hand, we use both. But most of the time we end up with plastic bottles. Angela says, every time they behave around each other, feed them a snack so they know my friend means treats, not a threat. Yeah, it's one of the tactics that they use. Pep says, Khalil Gibran, keep me away from the wisdom which does not cry, the philosophy which does not laugh, and the greatness which does not bow before children. I like that. Very nice. Tanya says, Jackson Galaxy, check out his YouTube channel for cat advice. That's the guy. Angela says, either or Sundrop. I usually keep stuff in glass jars. Julia says, my two cats have it in for each other. Okay, it's the female who has always been grown. When I got the male, had it in for the male. It's their life path. Mary says, haha, I think a cat will laugh at you trying to put a spell on them. They will put a spell on you. Just kidding. Well, cats are kind of like their own life form there, and there's certain things that they really like. They love energetic healing, but only until they're ready for you to stop. It's the same with pets. They have very good boundaries. Cats teach us how to have good boundaries. You know a mood the cat is in without any doubt. There's no question. If they're not in a good mood, they're going to let you know. If they like what you're doing, they're going to let you know. So I applaud their ability to communicate without words. Lod says, thank you for the advice, everyone. Angela says, give them a unity cake with tuna fish candles. That's big enough for them both to share. Sundrop said, I wanted to make black salt. Do I really need activated charcoal? Can I use salt and pepper? I can't find the charcoal. Yeah, I think a lot of people use black pepper mixed with salt to do it that way. I don't know that it's absolutely necessary. I mean, you use what you have on hand. I think it's a good substitute. Angela says cats have good boundaries and no shame. Oh, just bless it and mix herbs in or ashes. Black salt doesn't need to be black. Yeah, absolutely. Tanya says there are alphas with cats too. Our female is like a brood mare. She is the boss. Well, in my house, I am the top cat. If we have cats, I am the alpha cat. And all the other cats know it. And I can speak cat well enough that if they're in trouble, I can hiss, growl, or make a sound that lets them know that this is not okay and they will stop what they're doing. So that's one of the tricks. Yes, they do have an alpha, so the human needs to be the alpha, in my opinion. Mary says, but there is stuff you can get at pet stores that have pheromones in it that you can spray or plug into the wall, and I've seen it work on some cats. Julia says, ingredients for unity cake for cats. Please. Probably going to have fish in it. Although they don't eat fish in the wild that often, they somehow love that stuff. I don't feed the cat we're currently housing fish because it makes their breath smell horrific. And he is a very friendly boy and likes to get in your face and rub your face a lot, so. Tanya says 100 about being the alpha human. Yep. And also teaching them the rules. It's like I've seen people who have cats and the cats just run the place. They get up on the covers, do whatever they want. There's no consequences. They make up their own stuff as they go along, and they look at their human like, yeah, right. I'm sorry, you have no juice. But when I raise the cat we have rules in our house. In certain ways, we don't play with a cat because we don't want to encourage a cat to play with a hand. So hands are not toys, and you don't give them food from your plate. They have their own place to eat and so forth. And again, showing good boundaries for humans and cats. Angela says tuna fish, shredded, cooked chicken, lactate milk, or lactate ice cream combined in a large pan and freeze. Then serve to cats on a hot day. Sounds like a nice cat treat. Violet says candle in a jar, like Yankee is a safe candle. You could even forget and it would not start a fire. Even if knocked over, it would still stay inside of it. I had the same issue. Julia says, oh, yummy sounding. Thank you so much. Not for humans, though. Mary says, last week you said your rabbit wasn't eating their pellets. Have they started eating yet? He knocked over his food dish. He has a salt craving, apparently, all of a sudden. But, Ashley was gone for like 3 days, and he's always like upset when she's not around because she's his main person. And he seems to be energetic at this point, so I tried giving him dead nettles, lavender leaves, and he likes lavender leaves to a point. He doesn't care about the dead nettles at all. Yeah, I think when the weather gets nicer, he has a harness, and Ashley will take him out into the backyard, and he can eat the stuff that's there because that's where the dead nettles are and stuff like that, so he can forage on his own. He may be going stir crazy too, being inside. And the cat was getting a little aggressive with him for a while, so that could make him upset. But he's been doing a lot of sitting on our laps. He actually climbed up and started licking my chin this morning. He just really wanted to be up there. Ian thinks it's because skin is salty, and maybe that's why he's licking us. I don't know. Sundrop says, cats and rabbits, one of my favorite animals. Angela says, you could eat it too, in theory. I tasted for curiosity. It wasn't bad. Yeah, okay. Sounds too fishy for me, but that's all right. Laud says, fortunately, it's not too bad with the cats. I just want to encourage good behavior. They're still getting used to each other at the moment. Well, that could be. It just might take them a while to decide, on what the rules are for engagement. Mary Broadwell says, picky bunny. Yeah, very picky bunny. And who knows what kind of stuff he was getting when he was just in a cage all the time and never got out. Tanya says, someone mentioned ash. What do you do with the ash in a cauldron after you are done with intentions? I have one that has ash from many sessions of release and can't seem to throw it out. I feel it amplifies by keeping it there. Well, it might, or you could add it to the salt to make the black salt. It'd be good ash for that. It would certainly charge up the salt. So yeah, if you want to keep it, I agree. It probably has some good energy. Angela says, if it's an intention I want outside the house, I scatter it in the garden. If it's protection, mix it into salt for black salt. And we're thinking along the same lines. But yeah, you can certainly use it as a barrier as well out there. They don't recommend you pour salt on the ground just because of the fact that, it kills living things. Salt's a good antiseptic. Just the other reason they salted meats and things like that was to preserve them. So you get some of the natural properties of the salt, and you can, figure out how to use it. Luna says, hey, Siofra and Ian, I'm very late to the party tonight. How are you guys? Well, I'm doing okay because I slept last night. Ian is not because he didn't sleep last night. We have some health things we have to talk to the doctor about. The person up in Portland had a heart attack while she was there, but she survived it. And now they're looking at her heart to see what's going on with that. And, yeah. And my granddaughter and my daughter both went up to Portland for 3 days. They left Sunday last week and came back Wednesday. And so it's been sort of a long, kind of exhausting trip for them to visit her up there and see where she was at and so forth. So the whole family is just a little bit like that. Well, yesterday we went to the park and the beach because my daughter-in-law had her birthday yesterday. No one told me, of course, until the day before and said, hey, can you come tomorrow and meet us here because it's her birthday? And I'm like, okay, I can, but I'm going to be a little bit late because I have a client in the morning. So yeah, been busy doing stuff, trying to get it together for, we have to clear an area for me to plant the sweetgrass and the white sage into the little containers, and Shay gave us a grow light that we're going to use to grow them, and I got the bracket thingies for mounting the shelf, and we have a piece of wood that's the right size for that. So that's our project this week that we're going to work on, just in time for May Day, actually, pretty close. Be a good time of year for that. Linda says, I'm sorry to hear this. Hope the doctor manages to resolve your issues and hope that Liz is getting the very best care. I'm thinking I may have got her name wrong. Nope, that's her name. I posted it on the community bulletin board and the address of the hospital where she's at so people can send her energy if they want to. Sundrop says, you do work for people? Well, I work on people. I'm a massage therapist, and at the moment I'm traveling with my massage table. Although one of my clients bought her own table, which is really nice. I don't have to cart mine in and out to work on her, but she usually gets like 2-hour sessions at a time. So yeah, I stopped my physical office last October is when I closed it down. And since then, after I recovered from my foot surgery, I've been going around, and last week I actually had 4 hours of massage on one day in the same part of town. So I did 3 hours at one place and then got something to eat and then an hour somewhere else on the way home. So that worked out pretty good. So that was nice. Violet says, what is a community billboard? That's on the site, on our page. If you go to it, there should be like a list of things, like it'll have videos, it'll have a word that says community, and that's where you post information if you want to share it. I put up like the poem to Aurora. I posted that on the community page. I put different rituals up there, like reminders that the full moon is coming for the Amethyst Crystal Web Project, and you can leave comments and stuff on that. Then there's another thing that's got all of the list of, I keep forgetting what the heck that's called. It's groups of videos together, and that I group together in like subject and stuff like that, so you can find them that way too. So that's all across that first page, tabs across the top. And we allowed, I think we had to hit 5,000 people to get the community tab, but we're well past that now, so it's been there and you can use it if you want to. Sundrop says, do you do spiritual work? Yes, I do. From time to time, I've done distance healings and things for people lately, and that's been very interesting to do the distant healing work. And with some people, I'm extremely successful, and some people I'm not, just like everything else. It's like if it's the right fit, it works quite well. And I do that by donation. If I'm going to do a distance healing, people decide what they can afford and send me a donation. So it varies depending on how much income someone has. Playlists, yes, thank you, Luna. That's what they're called. I don't know why that thing doesn't stay in my head. Sundrop says, there's lots of spiritualists on YouTube who make a living doing spiritual work and readings, etc. Yeah, I tend not to do readings the way most people do them. I don't tell people what to do. I will give them my, information. If I'm doing a healing and I see something, when I'm there, I'll tell them that I see it. I have removed blockages from people from time to time. It just really depends upon what feels right. Tanya says, you gave great ideas about the ash of intentions. I will use it on my herbs outside so it will grow with them. Thank you, and wish you and your loved ones good health. Thank you. And ash is like mostly potassium kind of stuff, isn't it? They use ash for soil.
Well, it's got potash in it, it was very alkaline.
Yeah, it's an alkaline substance.
So yeah, it's going to be very alkaline.
So you don't want to put it on something that likes an acidic environment, like rhododendrons and certain plants that like to have an acid soil. So before you put it on your plants to help them grow, make sure that they like a more alkaline soil mixture. Or you can just put a sprinkle a little bit, so it's not going to really affect the soil that much. It's always interesting.
In fact, that's a substance which is taken from ash that actually etched our pipe.
Ah,
Got etched. That's
right.
potassium chloride that comes right out of the ash. So it can be pretty powerful.
It can be pretty strong stuff. And thank you, Tanya. We appreciate that. Like, life is a series of things that happen, and your job is to adapt and figure out how to navigate whatever things might pop up in your way, get around them. It doesn't seem to work to like try and plow through them and hit your head against them and end up with a bloody head. I'm more of a, Tai Chi kind of thing. It's like, don't go with the super resistance, find a way around the block or figure out how to dissolve the block so it's not actually stopping you. But, that's one of the things that the work is about, is you deciding what kind of person you want to be. And when I hear people say that's just the way I am and there's nothing I can do about it, they're lazy. They don't understand how this works, because you can become any kind of person you want to be. You just have to put the work in. Angela says, life's a game made for everyone. Play nice, everyone. We're all in the same sandbox. Yep. And I just am blown away by how much energy people waste trying to stop other people from doing something that's good for them because they don't want to do it for themselves. It's like, so what? You don't have to. You can let other people do what they need to do for themselves and to be who they are. It's not like they're running around trying to make you like them. I never have understood that. And it's a miracle, I guess, considering my father's like one serious racist. And he didn't hide it in any way whatsoever, so it just never made sense to me. Actually, I had a conversation with the new client that I saw on Thursday about the subject. He brought it up. And I tried to explain to him the difference between your gender at birth, gender identity, and sexual preference, because they're all different. And apparently he has someone in the family who was born male, identifies as female, and has changed her name to represent that. And so hopefully I managed to, make it sound more sensible to him that, hey, who cares? As long as you're not harming anybody, why do people care? Because they're somehow don't think that what they're doing is right, I guess. You think? I don't know. It makes no sense to me. Never has. Luna says that Angela, I wish my cat had found her way to the sandbox this evening, came home just now to find she'd pooped on the carpet, and just for good measure, then rolled in it. Oh my. Does she have a predator she's trying to disguise her scent or something? We had a cat do that once because he thought the bell around his neck was chasing him. No time to wash her, so had to cut the dirty hair. Yeah, well, they'll grow back. Violet says, you are so fun and funny and level-headed, Siofra. You always make me chuckle. Good. Oh, no, naughty kitty, says Angela. Yes, that's not a fun thing to come home to. Ooh. What was that cat thinking? Tanya says, yes, drives me mad when I hear that's life, I'm a realist, I can't do blank in another life. In my head I say, no, you are just negative and have shadow work to do because it wants you in the dark. True. Angela says, we all love Siofra Indian. Thank you guys. Luna says, she's never done it before. To Lord knows why she did it. Hope it's not going to be a habit. You might want to see if this has got a medical issue. It seems very strange behavior for a cat. Angela says, what was that cat thinking? The question of the ages. Yeah, it is the question. What was that cat thinking? Wouldn't a realist be the one open to all possibilities of what is real? Ah, you'd think, but then, definitions. Violet says, feel better, Ian.
Thank you.
Claude says, I'm starting to think my cats are better behaved than I thought. Yeah, well, if they're not doing what Luna's cat is doing, consider yourself fortunate, I guess.
Hey, I only got the word feel.
That's because Violet says fell better, Ian, up top, and then she corrected it
I
to
see.
feel.
Okay.
So I just added it in instead of saying the
thank you. Okay.
other one. Confusions abound. But yeah,
I thought it was screwing up for a minute.
nope, you're getting all of them, so that's good. But yes, living with life forms is always a challenge. And every continent's got its own different life forms, which is just so amazing to me. I like watching nature shows to see what other life lives in other places than where I am. Our wild turkeys are back, and we can hear them in the evening when the sun goes down, and in the early morning hours, they're down the hill gobbling, making gobbling sounds. Thinking I might be hearing them right now. I'm hearing something out there. Mary says, my cat is drooling on me and making biscuits on my belly. Well, that is a happy cat. And understanding how they communicate is really important, because that's the reason why a lot of people don't get along with cats, is they don't understand what they're doing. And, cats are pretty clear about their messages. It's just people are not that bright when it comes to understanding them sometimes. Angela says, please don't eat us. We are good turkeys, they say. Violet says, cool turkeys. Wild turkeys, they're gorgeous too. And no one has eaten them. I think they're too tough for food, considering what other people have said.
They're very decorative.
Yeah, they're very decorative. Tanya says, I see some YouTubes of what some cat owners have to deal with, and I'm like, my cats are angels after all, despite what I thought. Yeah. But like people, they have different personality quirks. Angela says, we're the ones with a language barrier. Animals understand us just fine. Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, a lot of people who don't understand cats think that they're aloof and off-putting. But what they're doing is they're being polite and not looking you straight in the eye and letting you know that they accept you. And you do the same back to them, and then they want to sit on your lap and make happy feet. So it's like,
Yeah, everybody should know how to give that.
oh, the closed eyes, yeah, the eye kiss. This cat that we're fostering, he's very good at the eye kiss. He tries to get me to feed him earlier in the day sometimes by walking around and closing his eyes at me. I love you, don't you want to feed me? Please feed me. But yeah, you do a slow eye close back at a cat, and it makes them very, very happy, because then they're like, we taught them how to do that. Aren't they awesome? And the nose-to-nose kiss, yes. Luna says, my other cat kept me up all night by chasing his own tail on my bed for hours. He's definitely not allowed in tonight. It's hard to sleep with a cat because they tend to be fairly awake in the evening hours in the dark. That's when they like to chase things. Luna says, Ziggy, my adopted cat, has just started giving me eye kisses. Yeah, it's pretty awesome when they start doing that. Then you know that they're feeling comfortable, and it's a good thing. Tanya says, after I learned that cats are uber sensitive to scents, I have not been using essential oil and keeping incense to a minimum. Yeah, their sense of smell is pretty incredible, and their ability to process certain things is not like dogs or people. Things can bother a cat's liver that won't bother a dog at all, or a person. So yeah, Angela says, good idea. Yeah, yeah, their sense of smell is not as acute as a dog's, but their liver doesn't like to have certain things in their system, for sure. Angela says, maybe make some catnip essential oil for them. Well, just the catnip. Not all cats like catnip. We've had 2 cats twice, and in both sets, in the first set of cats, one cat absolutely went crazy for catnip. He would start sniffing it, he would roll in it, he would roll his head in it, he'd be like laying on the floor and running around in circles. And the other cat would smell it and go like, what? I don't get it. And the same with the other two sets. One cat really liked the catnip and the other cat was like, I don't know what's going on here. This person's gone crazy. This cat's crazy. Like, why are they acting that way? So it's not universal with cats either. It's just like with people. But hey, they say if you sow it in your garden, they're not as interested in it as if you like bring it in later or something. I don't know if that's true. But catnip makes a really nice tea that's very calming for people. I used that for a while. It doesn't make you sleepy or drowsy. It sort of takes the edge off your nerves. And I went through a period of time where I drank catnip tea on a daily basis for a while, and it helped. Angela says, good idea. Maybe make some catnip essential oil for them. Luna says, catnip essential oil? Holy. I can only imagine the results with a sensitive cat. Black Satsang says, say that cats live in the astral and in this realm at the same time. Yes, they certainly see the other side pretty regularly. Angela says, I've thought about trying catnip tea. Yeah, a little bit of honey in it makes it quite pleasant. It's a very mild tea. To me, at any rate, I should qualify. But it is a very nice, just sort of soothing, like I said, edge off the nerves kind of thing, calming. Julia says if a cat doesn't care much for catnip, they'll likely like silver vine, which has the same thing in it as valerian root without the stench. Some cats love valerian root. I've had cats rub my bottle of valerian root. Tanya says, FYI, catnip is so easy to grow and will grow back in winter and regrow in spring. They love the fresh stuff but not dried. Mint family, so grow in a pot. I love catnip tea. It relaxes me and I never feel groggy. Yep. Luna says, I invited my deceased ex into my home a couple of weeks back, and Ziggy, his cat, could see him. Always a good sign. Mary says, I was smoking a smoking blend with catnip in it while camping and attracted tons of feral cats. Oh, that's terrific. Angela says, cats that don't like people walk straight up to me. It's happened since childhood. People tell me that cat hates everyone else. What did you do? Yeah, same here. They can recognize other cat people. We put out a vibe. When I went to my daughter-in-law's house, one of her cats is like not that friendly with strangers. I sat on the couch and that cat ended up on my lap twice. And she's just sitting there looking at me going like, wow, I've never seen that cat do that. It's like, yep, we put out the right vibe. Cats are comfy with us. That's the way that works. Black Satsang says, some say that the cat is familiar to them. What does that really mean? Oh, they're talking about it being a familiar, and there's arguments about whether someone's pet can be a familiar or not, and it depends on what line of reasoning you use. A familiar is supposed to be an animal form, either physical or spiritual, that assists a witch with their magic and spell work and helps to protect them and that kind of thing. And we did meet one witch who brought her cat with her to an event we went to, and it was pretty clear that that cat was her familiar, not just a pet. So it's going to vary. Violet says, bye guys, take care. Bye, Violet.
Bye, Violet.
Angela says, that's their witchy animal. Yep. And we're coming up on our time here, so we're getting ready to go too. But hey, it's been nice just to sit and chat, even if we're not like feeling all up today. Luna says, hope your health improves, both of you. Blessings for all the week ahead. Thank you. Julia says, bye, Violet.
Thank you.
Darling says, blessed be.
Bye, everybody.
Mary says, one of my cats specifically sits on me and is obviously happy drooling, and he does it every week while I listen to you. I must like the sound of my voice. And it says, hugs, cake, and cookies to all, and may all the cats be unified and well behaved. It's always a good thing to wish for. Animals cooperate sometimes. Sometimes they don't. Okay, guys. So, if you have ideas for videos you want to do, you can post them on the bulletin board. You can send me an email at shifersmagicalcove@gmail.com. You can send me a Facebook friends request, send me something through Messenger. If you send me a Facebook friends request, please send me a message and let me know who you are and that I know you, at least some. Because I still get occasional weird people wanting to be friends that I have no clue who they are. So, anyway, everybody stay well. Hopefully the weather will warm up the right amount and everyone will be in a good place. So, blessed be everybody. Talk to you next week.